Hello everyone. Today we are going to paint this flower. In this episode, I will teach you how to paint this flower from the beginning. We are going to learn how to make sketch of a flower and then how to paint it using watercolor. In my previous video on how to introduce watercolor to young children, I used the same equipments. These student grade or hobby grade equipments are very affordable for you who are a beginners in learning watercolor, and you can make really good paintings with just simple tools like this. Now let's start with the paint brushes. The paint brushes that I use is a set of 3. On this painting I just used 2 of them. They are from Staedtler, made in Germany. I used 2 round brushes. One is size 8 and the other one is size 2. Considering the price, these 2 brushes are actually really good. This brand of watercolors is the same brand I used years ago when I was still a student. Comparing to any other cheap brands, I think this one is really good. I cannot believe how affordable this watercolor is, comparing to the quality that they have. Since I'm not going to use that many colors for this painting, I'm just using a small palette, and this one is a thin one, so it's really easy to clean and is quite durable comparing to the plastic one. These watercolor pencils are also the same brand that I used to use when I was a student. I really love them. They are soft, and as you make sketch, the colors are really easy to dissolve with water. You're also going to need some paper towel and then a cup that you're gonna fill in with water. There are many watercolor paper brands out there. What I'm looking for is actually the material. It's made from 100% cotton. And also the thickness of the paper minimum is going to be 300 grams. This will allow you to paint without the paper tearing apart as you put that much paint on the paper. Now shall we get started? First, I will pick the few colors that I will use for this flower. On the background, my child is actually painting right behind me. I applied the method that I teach you on my last video, how to introduce watercolor to young children, and she loved it. Since that day, she is hooked and she's been asking to do paintings every single day. If you haven't watched that video, please go to my channel and have a look. Share it to people that you love that have children. The video is children friendly, so you can also just show them directly. I'm sure they will love it. To be able to make sketch of a flower, first we need to understand the structure of any flower. It will start with the center of the flower. In this case, I will use the round shape. I will also mark the center part of the circle. So basically the petals of the flower grow from the center of the flower. So you will draw each petals sort of the same size from the center of the flower out. And then you repeat that and go around from the center of the flower. On the bottom part, you can also draw a folded petal and will make the flower look a bit more realistic. To make the sketch easy, I will make the petals just 2 layers. So we're going to draw another layer of petal right in between of the front petals like this. And then after that, if you want, you can refine the shape of the petals, make it a bit look dynamic. This is just an option though, you can also just leave it as it is. As you can see here, I use the color of the pencils according to the color that I will use on the watercolor. Like the stem, I will use the green color, the petal I will use purple, and the center of the flower I used brown. This is how the sketch look like when it's fully done. These are all the colors that I will use: red, blue, brown, and yellow ochre. I'm going to do a little bit of color mixing to make this painting process a bit more fun. I will mix some red and blue to make purple color. I'm using thick paints in the beginning and then add a bit more water to see if I like the color. After I decide that I actually like the purple color, I move to the other part of the palette and make thinner paints. The thinner paint I will use for the first layers of the watercolor painting. For the first layer, I will paint one part of the petal with very thin paint. It means just a little bit paint and lots of water. And then you can add a bit more paint on the bottom part of the petal to add gradation. You can call this wet technique. It means you will put some water on the part that you're gonna paint, so the paint will blend easily on the paper. So the first stage of this painting, you basically just repeat the same process to the front layer part of the petals. I will leave the folded part of the petal to paint later because they are going to have lighter color. After that part is fully dry, then I'm going to start painting the folded part of the flower with lighter color. It depends on how you like it. I like to leave a little bit of space between two parts. I think is nice and it adds a little bit of highlights. Remember to leave the first part fully dry before you move on to the next. The next part is to paint the second layer of the petals, and I will use the darker purple to add contrast to the front layer part of the petals. You're just going to have to be a little bit careful when you paint the small part between those petals and use the tip of the brush. Remember, you can always rotate the paper if it's easier for you and find the angle that you can use the brush better. I will zoom out this process a little bit so you will see how my hand move from paint, water, and paper as I go. It depends of how dense I want the paint. If I want the color to be washed out, then I will add some more water. Or if I have too much paint on the brush or too much water on the brush, just quickly dip it on the paper towel. After the first layer is fully done, now you can move on to the next one. I'm using the small size of the brush for this part. So firstly, I will add some paint to the part of the petal that I will want the color to be darker. And then you can wash that color out with the wet brush to make this color smoother or to make gradation. Once you will give it a try, working with two paint brushes, you will understand how this process will go. Again, first use the small brush to add paint, and then use the other brush with just a little bit of water to brush off the color. And then there will also some part of the petals that I will want the color to be dark. Then I would just use the dense color. To paint the center part of the flower, you basically use this kind of circular movements. So you start from the center part of the flower and make the same shape, starting from the center and slowly moving up. I will keep adding water to make the color slightly softer as I go to the outer part of the flower to add depth. And after the first part is fully dry, I will use the smaller brush and denser paint and repeat the same process just with the slightly smaller brush strokes so it adds more texture to the center part of the flower. And that is it, our painting today is done. Honestly, if you make a simple paintings like this, a cheap or expensive watercolor paints does not make that much difference. So trust me, just start with the basic and learn a few tricks from my tutorial videos, which I have uploaded a few before this video. I really do hope that you find this video useful and it will get you started to learn watercolor and falling in love with it like I do. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.